Have you ever wondered what happens when political rhetoric becomes a weapon used to target entire communities? Imagine in the coming weeks federal agents sweeping through Maine. They're not looking for criminals. They're focusing on people who've already been accepted into the country. Somali refugees, the same people who've built families, businesses, and lives here in the U.S. What did they do wrong? President Donald Trump, for months now, has been vocal in his attack on Somali immigrants. He's called them garbage and repeatedly demanded their removal from the country. This rhetoric isn't just talk. It's backed by potential federal action, an operation that could change the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of people. It's not just about immigrants. It's about how the very fabric of this nation is being tested. Are these claims of fraud real, or is this a bigger strategy to target a vulnerable group? Stay tuned. Let's break it down. This isn't just about immigration enforcement. It's part of a much larger narrative that's been playing out across the country, driven by the Trump administration. You've heard the rhetoric. They're criminals. They're scammers. They don't belong here. But behind the sound bites, there's a deeper story. Somali refugees, particularly in Maine, are the focus of these attacks. And it's not by accident. For years, they've been a growing community contributing to local economies, cultural diversity, and enriching the social landscape. But now that very success seems to be under fire. Why Maine, though? Why focus on this specific group? It's a question that's not just about policy, it's about political strategy. In the rhetoric of the administration, Somali immigrants have become a symbol of a broader battle over immigration, national identity, and what it means to belong. But let's take a step back. Where does this story actually begin? To truly understand the current situation, we need to look at the history. The Somali refugee crisis in the U.S. isn't new. It started in the early 1990s when Somalia's government collapsed and civil war tore the country apart. Thousands fled their homeland, seeking safety and refuge in countries around the world, including the U.S. The resettlement process wasn't easy. Refugees, including Somalis, were placed in cities across the U.S., including Maine and Minnesota. While some communities embraced them, others resisted, fearing changes to their local culture and economy. Fast forward to today, Somali Americans, especially in places like Lewiston, Maine, have built their lives here. They've opened businesses, raised families, and contributed to the workforce. They've become part of the fabric of these communities. But now, with Trump's rhetoric and the increased focus on fraud, that history seems to be under threat. Why are we seeing this shift now? What has changed from those earlier years of resettlement to this new wave of suspicion and hostility? Let's take a closer look at the incident that sparked this crisis. In the heart of this controversy lies an explosive event, a series of allegations that have added fuel to the fire. Reports surfaced about Somali-run daycares in Minnesota, where fraud was allegedly rampant. The charges? That these daycares were falsely claiming government funds. The result was a growing sense of distrust and the perfect storm for anti-immigrant rhetoric. And then came President Trump's speeches. He made it clear these fraud cases weren't just isolated incidents, they were symbolic of a much larger issue with Somali refugees. He called them scammers, claimed they were ruining communities, and then extended the blame to Maine, pointing specifically to Somali immigrants there. In his eyes, they were all part of a web of corruption that needed to be wiped out. As this narrative picked up steam, the government began laying the groundwork for a new operation, one that would target Somali immigrants in Maine, detaining them for reviews that could last up to 30 days. Was this operation truly about rooting out fraud, or was it a political tool designed to strike fear into the hearts of those who had already built lives here? This moment was only the beginning. Let's dive deeper into the hidden mechanisms behind this operation. At first glance, the operation may seem like a straightforward effort to root out fraud, but when we peel back the layers, it becomes clear that this goes much deeper. This isn't just about identifying criminals, It's about sending a message. The operation is being designed by the Department of Homeland Security with ICE at the forefront. It's part of a broader plan, one that re-examines the very foundation of the refugee vetting system. But what's really behind this move? The system that's being targeted has already undergone scrutiny. Somali refugees, like all refugees, are rigorously vetted before being allowed entry. They undergo extensive background checks, interviews, and medical evaluations. So why the sudden push to review cases that have already been approved? The answer lies in a larger agenda, an agenda focused on delegitimizing entire immigrant communities. By claiming there's widespread fraud, the administration is painting Somali refugees with a broad brush. The operation is more than just about fraud detection. It's a calculated move in a political game aiming to reinforce an image of outsiders who don't belong. But what does this really mean for the Somali community in Maine? The situation is intensifying, and we're entering a crucial moment. As the operation looms, it's not just the Somali immigrants in Maine who are under siege, it's their entire community. The fear is palpable. Federal immigration agents are preparing to swoop in, and the uncertainty is driving residents into panic. Just as the operation in Minnesota triggered widespread fear and chaos, the same is happening in Lewiston, Maine. Local officials are scrambling. The mayor of Lewiston, Carl Schlein, posted on Facebook urging residents to understand their rights and prepare for what's coming. The message is clear. The town is on edge. No one knows exactly when ICE will arrive, but the threat feels imminent. As tensions rise, this becomes more than just a local issue. It's a microcosm of a nationwide crisis, one where entire immigrant communities are being subjected to mass surveillance and threat simply because of their background. And as the operation takes shape, the larger question remains: what's at stake for these families, their future, and the fabric of American society? Let's focus on the people who are at the heart of this story, the Somali immigrants in Maine. They didn't just come to the U.S. for a better life, they came to escape war, violence, and terror. Now, instead of finding security, they are being targeted. Their lives are being upended by a government they thought would protect them, not hunt them down. Imagine the fear that a parent must feel knowing their family could be torn apart at any moment, or the anxiety of a student who's grown up here, who speaks English fluently, and who calls this place home. These are people who contribute to their communities, who work hard every day, and yet they are now seen as the enemy. The psychological toll on these individuals is immeasurable. They are being painted as criminals without evidence. The trauma that comes with this constant fear of deportation and the threat of breaking up families is not something that can be easily erased. This isn't just a political issue, it's a humanitarian crisis. And the impact will be felt for generations. This isn't just an issue affecting Maine or Minnesota, it's a global crisis. The rhetoric and actions surrounding the Somali immigrant community send a powerful message to the world. Countries with large immigrant populations are watching. The implications of what happens in the U.S. will be felt far beyond our borders. Across the globe, Somali refugees have already faced persecution, war, and displacement. And now they face the same in the U.S. These actions risk tarnishing America's image as a beacon of hope for those fleeing danger. They risk turning the very principles of freedom and asylum into a political pawn used to manipulate public opinion for short-term gain. The ripple effect goes even further. In global diplomacy, actions like these can strain relations with countries that see such tactics as unjust. Somalia itself, already struggling with internal strife, now sees its people being demonized abroad. It paints a picture of the U.S. as a place where not even refugees fleeing violence are welcome. The question we must ask: what kind of message is America sending to the world? As we look to the future, three possible scenarios unfold. The best case: the operation is halted. The government acknowledges the harm this rhetoric and action are causing to families and communities. Immigrants are given the space to rebuild and continue contributing to their communities without the constant fear of deportation. There's a shift in public discourse, a move away from scapegoating to understanding and integration. The middle ground. The operation continues, but with safeguards. The damage is minimized, and the operation becomes more targeted, focusing solely on genuine cases of fraud or criminal activity. The Somali community, though still under scrutiny, finds ways to resist and adapt, though the scars of these attacks remain. The worst case, the operation is rolled out fully, leading to mass deportations and family separations. The Somali community is shattered. Other immigrant groups watching this unfold face similar crackdowns. The political climate becomes even more polarized, and fear takes root in immigrant communities across the country. This becomes a defining moment in U.S. history, where fear and division outweigh compassion and unity. No matter the scenario, the consequences will be profound. The question is, what kind of future are we willing to accept? As we wrap up, one thing becomes clear. What happens to the Somali community in Maine is more than just a local issue. It's a crossroads for America itself. It's a test of our values, our humanity, and our commitment to the principles of justice and equality. We cannot afford to let fear and hatred define us. We must stand up, not only for Somali immigrants, but for every person who is unfairly targeted based on their background. This is about standing up for truth, for compassion, and for the very soul of this nation. The time to act is now. Learn about your rights, support those who are under threat, speak out against injustice, because the fight for the future isn't just in the hands of politicians, it's in all of ours. Let's make sure that America remains a place where everyone belongs.